Tonight, the sins of a son haunt the father, forcing Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to apologize over General Muhoozi's tweets that threatened to drive a diplomatic wedge between Nairobi and Kampala. The statement against the communication of any form of foreign policy through social media ironically posted on the official Twitter account of President Museveni. We have this and much more, plus also a critical look on the state of Kenya's economy post-campaign and post-COVID. But first, the highlights. Tonight, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni uses social media to ask Kenyans for forgiveness after his son's tweets threatened to cause a diplomatic tiff between the two nations. Tension is high in Turkana South after heavily armed gunmen raided 3 villages in the area, making way with hundreds of domestic animals.
Hapo kote ameiba ngamia yangu 30 saa 6 usiku. Nikafuata mpaka saa 12 akaenda.
Kwa ile watu ile anasimama hapa, hata huyu nilichukua ngamia yake karibu 24 nilichukuliwa.
This coming barely a week after 11 people, including 8 police officers, were killed in similar circumstances. As Kenya joins the world in celebrating teachers across the world, we focus on one teacher from Kandara, Murang'a County, going above and beyond the limits to perform his duties extraordinarily.
Kutoona nimekuwa hivyo tangu zamani na kuzaliwa hivyo na nimezoea hali hii. Kwa hivyo hakuna shida yote ambayo nimekumbana nazo, kwa sababu sasa ukishazoea hali inabidi uzoe, unatumia kama ni hii environment ya shule nimeielewa jinsi ilivyo. Hata wakati niko kula nyumbani naelewa jinsi kulivyo.
This despite being visually impaired. All right, TV47 News Tonight begins right now. Very good evening to you and welcome aboard. My name is Ken Kazungu. Mini Mbesa will be handling the sign language interpretation. Now, leaders of teachers' unions want teachers to receive an increment of 60% in their salaries as motivation. Now, this was proposed on a day that the world celebrated World Teachers' Day. And as our senior education reporter Sharon Baranga reports, 264 outstanding teachers spread across the country in each of the 47 counties were recognized at an event that had been organized by the Teacher Service Commission. Another 51 teachers who won national honors over the last 2 years, 21 of whom were awarded in 2022, were also recognized.
It was a day set aside to celebrate the contribution teachers have made in the lives of their learners. In Nairobi, the celebrations to mark World Teachers' Day took place at the Kenya School of Government, and it was organized by the Teacher Service Commission. A number of teachers were invited to the event. Among them were teachers who received awards in various categories that they excelled in the last year.
So, the top 2021 KCP school per region.
The active role teachers play in the lives of their students was emphasized, but also the challenges teachers go through in their line of duty also came to the fore, with some union leaders proposing a 60% salary increment for teachers.
The teacher must be well resourced, and of course the teacher must be well enumerated. As we look at the part of the enumeration which the Teacher Service Commission handles with our unions, the issue of the security becomes key to any central government. It is my appeal that as we move forward to ensure that our teachers continue performing well, issue of security in our areas, many of our areas should be looked into. In order for the teacher to get the required teaching learning materials, funding of education programs is important.
How can teachers teach in environments which are very uncomfortable? If you want us to transform education, we must be comfortable where we work. So the TSC chair, who is the chief guest, I know as part of your speech will include, among other things, addressing the stagnation of teachers of this country. ensuring that you lobby for the 58,000 teachers that the new government has committed to give us.
We welcome the task force to review the CBC. But how do you arrange a burial? The owner, the family members are not included. We are questioning that, but we support. Madam CEO, this is directed to you. Our principals and head teachers, let us know simple laws. How can you write an eviction letter to a member of staff 70 days? That is in Kajiado, it is in your desk.
Teachers can only work if they are motivated and well paid. This has been proven through various research findings, and here we have already presented a proposal of 60% salary increment to teachers, regardless of the position of economy in the country. This is our presentation because this is our work. If I don't do that, then I shall have not worked.
Last month, the Teacher Service Commission employed and posted over 14,000 new teachers who replaced teachers who left service through national attrition.
He assured that the Kenyan teacher can only expect good things going forward. And that we shall be telling you how to go on with this recruitment as per the Kenya Kwanza Charter. We are also cognizant of the fact that they are also busy preparing for one of the busiest national examination period in our country. Granted that we will be administering 3 national examinations, KCP, KCSE, and for the first time, Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, which is now being called KEPSEA for grade 6. And our teachers are expected to undertake all this once again.
According to TSC, the teachers recognized had consistently demonstrated exemplary performance in teaching, management, and effective delivery of their curriculum for quality education and community service. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
All right, staying on the same wavelength, and Kenyans today joined the world in celebrating World Teachers' Day, with the theme being Education Reforms Begins with Teachers. Teachers from different counties gathered for the celebrations and took the opportunity to talk about the challenges they are currently facing, including the CBC curriculum. Beatrice Watare with the details.
In Kisumu County, some teachers expressed satisfaction with the CBC curriculum, even though they have experienced a few challenges with it. They also urged the new government officials appointed by President William Ruto to review the curriculum in collaboration with teachers in marginalized areas before making an informed decision.
Watakapoanza shughuli rasmi ya kuweza angalia nyufa zilizo na hata kuziziba, basi waweze kufikia watu walio katika mashinani ama katika viwango vya chini, ili wapate maoni, baadaye waweze kufanya maamuzi ya hekima, maamuzi ambayo yataweza kuwafaa wanafunzi kwa jumla na hata taifa hili kwa jumla.
Teachers in Bungoma County, however, expressed dissatisfaction over unemployment even after graduating.
Pia kuna mambo mengi ambayo yanafanya tunajutia kuwa walimu. Kwa mfano, kama mimi binafsi nilipohitimu mwaka wa 2013 hadi wa leo sijui serikali na mikakati ipi. Imenifanya mpaka nimejidunisha kabisa.
The father called on the government to focus on reviewing their salaries, including facilitating CBC training for the teachers.
Changamoto tu ambayo walimu tunapata ni yale mapato madogo ambayo tunapata, especially wenye tunafunza vile vya kibinafsi. Kisha ule mtaala wa CBC pia umetupatia changamoto. Tunaambiwa ni lazima urudi shule ndiposa uandikwe, na wengine wetu hatuna karo.
Reporting for TV 47, my name is Beatrice Watare.
Let us now celebrate a teacher who has gone above and beyond his call of duty. And despite being visually impaired, Simon Njenga, a teacher at Karigwaine Primary School, has carved a niche for himself as one of the most sought-after teachers in the school. According to Njenga, his condition has not at any point discouraged him from pursuing what he wanted most and even went ahead to practice it. Chepto Boit now tells us how Njenga goes about his day and his vast interaction with the pupils, even as a class teacher.
Simon Njenga stands out amongst his colleagues at Karigwaine Primary School in Kandara, Murang'a County. Despite being visually impaired, he is able to run about his duties just like other teachers with minimal assistance.
Kama ni hii environment ya shule nimeielewa jinsi ilivyo, hata wakati niko kule nyumbani naelewa jinsi kulivyo. Nimezoea kazi hali hii na kwa sababu nimezaliwa na katika kutoona.
For 12 years, Njenga has been a teacher for Kiswahili and Christian Religious Education CRE and has also doubled up as a class teacher in one of the streams in Class 7. According to him, his condition never hinders his day-to-day calling to teach.
Sababu kila mwalimu huwa anatumia silabasi kumuongoza na silabasi inatuongoza kujua pale ambapo tumefika. Sasa mimi najua silabasi nimefika mahali fulani na hiyo sehemu inapatikana katika ukurasa fulani na sura fulani ya kitabu. Ndio sababu umesikia nikiwaambia fungueni sura 25 sehemu ya sarufi, kwa sababu hapo ndipo silabasi tumefikia hapo.
He however narrates that parents and pupils at the school took time to accept him. Despite that, his pupils' performance motivate him to be better, and in some instances, his class does better compared to others. Surprisingly, he knows his pupils by name and sitting positions.
Katika masomo yangu, mwaka uliopita KCP Kiswahili, darasa langu lilikuwa na mean score 53.6. Likilinganishwa na darasa hilo lingine ambalo lilikuwa na 50.
Kwa ni mwaka 2021. Somo la Bwana Njenga lilipata mean score ya 50, na mwaka uliopita wa 2020 somo hilo lilikuwa limepata mean score ya 38. Kwa hivyo alikuwa na nyongeza kubwa.
Esther Nyambura assists Njenga at times in marking assignments and administering exams.
Wakati anaenda darasani, tunaenda pamoja. Wakati anahitaji nishaize kazi ya watoto, naifanya, nasaisha. Tunapoandika ubao, pia mimi hufanya hiyo kazi yote.
Mwalimu ambaye kila siku kutoka Januari mpaka Disemba, yeye hakuna siku anafika hapa saa 1. Anafika hapa saa 12 dakika 20, saa 12 dakika 10 na kitu, na akifika tu yeye anaenda darasani.
The popular teacher in the school, however, says lack of braille equipment at the school presents a challenge to him. As the world celebrates the Teachers' Day, Simon Njenga is one of the teachers being celebrated in Karigwaine Primary School. Chepto Boit, TV 47.
Also, the family of former principal of the Bosto Mixed Secondary School in Bomet County, Isaac Wanakacha, is calling on human rights defenders to compel the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, or the DCI, to conduct a thorough investigation to identify and arrest those who allegedly killed the teacher. Our reporter Boniface Baraza with more details on that story.
In an interview at their home in Sinoko Village, Cherangani constituency in Trans Nzoia County, the parents of the deceased teacher, Masinde Wanakacha and Felicitas Wanakacha, said the circumstances surrounding his death are suspicious.
Aliuliwa na amepatikana huko mahali panaitwa Vinyenye.
Kifo yenyewe, Isaac alikuwa na majeraha mingi, na huku wanasema ya kwamba alijiua mwenyewe. Sasa hiyo haijaridhisha familia.
Lakini meno ya mbele hayakuwa meno yake. Hata akatuuliza huyu huwa na shida ya meno. Hatujawahi sikia ndugu yetu ameng'oa meno ya mbele. Meno yenye alikuwa amewekewa ni artificial teeth.
His sister Naomi Nekesa says that it is illogical for the body to be found in River Nzoia 7 kilometers from his home. autopsy report shows that he was neither choked by water nor his clothes washed away by the river water.
Kuna watu neighbors wako na information, wako willing kupeana information, but unfortunately information ya mke wake peke yake ndiyo imekuwa considered. Sisi kama familia tumekataa, mwalimu hakujiua. Mtu wewe kunywa sumu uende ujitupe kwa mto more than 7 kilometers. Angeanguka kwa mto karibu na kwake, nguo hata zingeraruka, zingevulika kwa sababu huo mto is a big river.
Nekesa has called on DCI to investigate communication between the deceased and other parties by conducting a thorough audit on his phone conversation.
Tunataka serikali tusaidie, tujue tu ni nini kilimuua ndugu yetu, na iwe pia mwisho wa kifo kama hiki. Mbona watu wanaendelea kukufa tu kwa njia kama hiyo?
The teacher was buried on Saturday last week as the family continued to seek for justice. Boniface Barasa, TV47, Cherangani constituency, Trans Nzoia County.
Tonight, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has apologized to Kenyans for his son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's controversial tweets that caused an uproar, threatening to sour diplomatic relations between Uganda and Kenya. President Museveni, in a signed statement, asked Kenyans for forgiveness, saying it was out of order for Ugandan public officers to comment or interfere with the affairs of brotherly countries. President William Ruto is expected in Uganda on Saturday, as Apollo Kamau now tells us.
Ahead of President William Ruto's visit to Uganda on Saturday this week, President Yoweri Museveni moved in to ease tension caused by his son's careless, wild and controversial tweets threatening East Africa's economic powerhouse Kenya with an invasion in less than 2 weeks. Museveni apologized to Kenya over the surly tweets by General Muhoozi Kainerugaba that annoyed diplomats in both countries, in a statement saying, and I quote, "Very sorry ndugu zetu wa Kenya. I ask our Kenyan brothers and sisters to forgive us for tweets sent by General Muhoozi, former commander of land forces here, regarding the election matters in that great country." Museveni reprimands his son further, saying, and I quote, "It's not correct for public officers, be they civilian or military, to comment or interfere in any way in the internal affairs of brother countries." General Muhoozi tweets, which had raised a diplomatic storm and a flurry of reactions in both countries, had threatened to jeopardize President William Ruto's Saturday visit to the annual Uganda Manufacturers Association meeting this week. To avoid what would have added salt to injury, Museveni explained why he promoted General Muhoozi to a full general, terming him as a first-time offender. Museveni says, and I quote, "Why then promote him to full general after these comments? This is because the mistake is one aspect where he has acted negatively as a public officer." He continues, and I quote, "There are, however, many other positive contributions the general has made and can still make. This is a time-tested formula. Discourage the negative and encourage the positive." Muhoozi's tweets had drawn retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's name in his social media rant, saying he regretted why Uhuru did not vie for a third term. He laughed off Kenya's respect for the rule of law before controversially remarking it will take him and his army 2 weeks to capture Nairobi and take control, invoking anger from Kenyans. Apol Kamau, TV47.
To some politics now, and the Azimio One Kenya coalition legislators are now the victims of the political party's bill that they themselves hurriedly passed in 2021 December, as questions arise on whether the outfit is a political party or a coalition party. This comes ahead of the much-anticipated ruling by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, on which coalitions has the majority in the National Assembly.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula is on Thursday afternoon expected to make a ruling on which coalition between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja forms the majority in the House.
A reasoned ruling touching on the facts, the jurisprudence, the constitutionality of the issues, and any other matters that you conversed on Thursday.
Azimio had proposed Ugunja Member of Parliament Opiyo Wandayi as majority leader to be deputized by Kathiani MP Robert Mbui. Kenya Kwanza fronted Kikuyu Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah as a majority to be deputized by Kilifi North MP Owen Baya. Meanwhile, members of Parliament were on Tuesday treated to a light moment in Parliament after Garissa Township Member of Parliament Aden Duale used the comical phrase "Murife, don't run."
As they say, Murife, don't run.
Duale pointed out that he had warned members of the 12th Parliament against passing the Political Parties Amendment Bill, which paved way for political parties to form coalition parties.
I told my colleagues then that don't make laws that will haunt you. And there are people who are running away from that chaos.
In December 2021, President Uhuru Kenyatta assented into law the controversial Political Parties Amendment Bill 2021. In an interesting turn of events, these same legislators who flexed their numerical strength to pass the amendment are now crying foul as they scramble for majority leadership in Parliament, with questions arising on whether Azimio is a coalition political party or a coalition of political parties.
Emanates from the passage of the amendments to that political party's amendment bill in the last parliament, Honorable Speaker.
The reason why Azimio was accepted to be registered is because it is a corporate political party.
Azimio pushed for the bill as it sought to lock out members in the coalition by reducing pre- and post-election defections. Contrary to that, several parties defected from the coalition before and after the general polls, hence the tussle of numbers being experienced now.
You cannot engage in another marriage, Mr. Speaker, and marry another person before you divorce the first one, Mr. Speaker. And when you want to divorce, there is a divorce procedure to follow, Mr. Speaker. You must divorce procedurally, Mr. Speaker.
You cannot coerce anybody into loyalty. You can only build friendship. Grow the friendship so that it will turn into trust.
This puzzle now lies in the hands of the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula as he makes the decision on which coalition has the majority in the House. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Staying with the precincts of Parliament, and members of Parliament have sent mixed signals over President William Ruto's impromptu visit to the August House, where he even had lunch with the members, with some saying that such moves might render Parliament powerless. As our parliamentary reporter Elizabeth Mutuku now tells us, the visit comes just a day before National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula rules over the majority tussle between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza.
This is how President William Ruto sneaked in Parliament and caught the speakers of National Assembly and Senate as well as members of both houses by surprise. The duo and members rushing to where he was set for lunch. This sending mixed signals among members of Parliament, some fearing the legislative arm of government might lose its independence with current moves by President. However, Kenya Kwanza allies James Gakuya, Richard Yegon and Nimrubai insist Parliament will continue to operate independently and there is no cause for alarm over President's visit.
Kuna independence katikati ya the arms of government. Executive inahitaji bunge, bunge inahitaji executive. Wale watu tunaweza sema mawacho kabisa ni judiciary. Wale hatuwezi sema president atangamana nao karibu kwa sababu yao ni sheria kabisa. Na sheria haihitaji president aanze kutafsiri, imeandikwa. Lakini hapa mpaka president aniongeleshe nimpitishie Asla Fund. Kwa sababu ilikuwa ni jambo aliambia wananchi na yeye hayuko mbunge kupitisha, kwa hivyo atahitaji wabunge.
Hiyo ni njia ya kielelezo kizuri kwamba wakati wowote anaweza ingia hapa na hakuna mpaka, kwa sababu yeye ashakuwa mbunge hapa, ashakuwa mbunge kwa tamu 3 mfululizo. Kwa hivyo hii bunge hata kuja kula pamoja nasi hapa, kuja kusalimiana na watu wa staff hapa ni jambo muhimu sana. Kwa hivyo mimi ningetaka kusema kama kuna watu wanaona hiyo ikiwa jama ya aina yoyote, mimi kwangu sio jama.
There's no difference. If we meet anywhere, people always have speculations. And today, maybe you know Ruto is the president himself. He's a workaholic, and he wants even the ministers, which he has, you know.
On the other hand, the Azimio la Umoja members say the move by President Ruto might render the House powerless and more so tilt the voting pattern, especially by members urging President to draw the line over the two arms of government.
What Kenyans actually need. So I cannot guarantee we will have independent parliament. We've seen it, and even we are seeing it tomorrow. I'm expecting a deputy speaker even not to declare Azimio as majority. The speaker, sorry.
The mandate is well clear and well entrenched in the constitution. And I don't think the president wants to untwist the legislature to have his way through here. This is a house controlled by the rule of law. Let us stick to that. The rule of law, let him have his line, we have our line, and we move on.
The president's visit comes a day before National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula is expected to make Solomonic ruling over majority and minority issue between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio One Kenya. The visit sends different signal on leadership style, with President unofficially visiting Parliament for the first time since promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
Elizabeth, thank you. Now moving on, and tonight, tension is at an all-time high in Turkana South after heavily armed gunmen raided 3 villages in the area and made away with more than 600 domestic animals this morning. The incident occurs just a week after bandits killed 11 people, among them 8 GSU officers. Boyge William with that report.
3 people are receiving treatment at the Lokicha Sub-County Hospital following a dawn attack by heavily armed gunmen who are said to have made away with more than 600 animals, among them camels, goats and cows. The attack happened in 3 villages in Turkana South, occurring weeks after 11 people were killed in the neighboring Turkana East.
Hapo ameiba ngamia yangu 30 saa 6 usiku. Nikafuata mpaka saa 12 akaenda.
Kwa ile watu ile anasimama hapa, hata huyu nilichukua ngamia yake karibu 24 nilichukuliwa nikaenda naye. Kafuata mpaka saa 12 asubuhi ikaenda.
The national government is currently conducting an operation in Turkana East following the deadly attack where among them 8 General Service Unit officers were killed in an ambush by bandits, with residents calling on the government to allow them possess guns for their own protection.
Those people who were yesterday, they were rich yesterday. This morning they were the poorest. They have been listed now in the list of those who are poorer in this country. So this issue between us and Pokot, it has to come to an end.
Waturkana ndio anafanya hivyo, hiyo watu wanaenda huko Mapokot. Juzi sisi likamata wauzi hapa na hiyo naibanga ambuzi usiku jioni. Ikakamata hiyo hasira hiyo watu huko ndio akakuja kamea nini. Akachukua hiyo akafamia hiyo ng'ombe.
Among those affected in the Wednesday morning attack, which left residents of Ekoropas village displaced, have decried increased attacks, calling for concerted efforts to find a lasting solution to the issue.
It's upon the politicians from both sides, the West Pokot and Turkana, to come together and have a discussion, have a conversation over this menace of insecurity. Otherwise, the common mwananchi on the ground will not be able to settle.
Elsewhere in Marsabit County, police have launched a manhunt after a police officer was killed and another airlifted to Nairobi for further medical attention after the 2 were attacked while in pursuit of cattle rustlers. Mwige William, TV47.
All right, from the headache of banditry to yet another headache affecting Kenyans, and that is drought. And in light of the anticipated below-average performing rainfall between the months of October and November, stakeholders from the humanitarian sector are calling on the government to scale up drought management programs beyond the month of December in order to counter the dire impacts of the national disaster. Now, this even as the drought continues to ravage many parts of the country, including Turkana, Marsabit, and Garissa. Zainab Mohammed with more.
Speaking to journalists, representatives from the ASAL Humanitarian Network have called on the national and county governments to release available funds in order to support grassroots efforts to counter the impact of drought. The network says in light of the anticipated below-average rainfall between the months of October and November, the government should scale up drought management programs beyond the month of December.
Urge the national and county government to include in their strategic plan adoption measures that promote drought preparedness and promote alternative climate resilience livelihood options.
In Turkana County, residents have been forced to travel for close to 30 kilometers in order to seek refuge at a Catholic church in Lodwar town, where relief food is available for the affected. The residents have been stuck there for more than a week now.
Sisi tumeangamia na shida yote. Hakuna hata mbuzi ambaye tuko naye, hakuna, kila kitu imeisha. Na sasa kenye imebaki ni sisi kuangamia. Sasa tunahitaji serikali ya leo atusaidie.
Sasa hatujui kwa hile maisha sisi tuko naye saa hii Turkana kweli. Tutaanza kukula tena maumbwa ile walikuwa wanasemekana tunakula. Kwa sababu mbuzi ile tulikuwa tunategemea imeisha.
Meanwhile, religious leaders in Garissa County have called on the government to come to the rescue of those affected by drought. Speaking after an interfaith meeting, the leaders said the situation in the 8 drought-stricken areas is getting worse by the day and that it's time Kenyans came to the rescue of their brothers and sisters in those areas.
Hii mkoa naye kaskazini mashariki tuko hali ngumu sana. Kwa hivyo sisi tukiwa viongozi wa dini na tumekutana hapa na IRC ambayo imetukutanisha leo, tunasema Wakenya mahali pote waamuke na watoe msaada kwa wenzao ambayo wanaumia.
Relief food flagged off by President William Ruto has arrived in Marsabit County. According to the county commissioner, residents are set to start receiving the food going forward.
So waiting for our MCAs to take off, because as you are all aware, we are just out of election. The process is on. We have presented a budget to them. They are discussing it. And once it's approved, then we will have a full-fledged intervention in the entire county.
Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Let us now go all the way to Bungoma, where health officials and health advocates in that county have raised concern over the high number of prenatal and maternal deaths reported in Bungoma County. According to the Ministry of Health, 100 unborn children die every month in Bungoma, and it is said that 18 pregnant mothers died between January and May this year due to maternal complications. Now, this story was produced by Sostin Wanji and voiced by Chepto Boyd.
Bungoma County is one of the highly populated counties in the country, but the county has been affected by a high rate of prenatal and maternal deaths. Bungoma County Reproductive Health Coordinator Mrs. Christina Liaka expressed her worries over the high number of prenatal and maternal deaths in Bungoma, saying that the county lost 40 pregnant women in 2021. In 2022, between the months of January and May, 18 women died due to pregnancy complications. Even more worrying, she says, is the death of an estimated average of 300 children quarterly.
We still have mothers dying in our facilities. We still have babies dying in our facilities. Like for last year, the whole of last year, 2021, we had a total of 4 mothers who died in our facilities. And about prenatal death, on a quarterly basis, we have a total of 300 averagely.
She says the lack of antenatal care knowledge and the delayed referrals from dispensaries and community health centers are major challenges that result to prenatal and maternal deaths.
Some of the factors contributing to this are the delays from, say, lower facilities in dispensary and the health centers when they want to refer these clients to comprehensive site.
If a mother goes for this ANC, especially up to her 4th ANC, it will be easier for the facility or rather for the service provider to tell what her issue is.
Local-based organizations led by youth in Bungoma County have strategized to sensitize the public on the importance of antenatal care for pregnant women. Rama Isa is an advocacy and a primary health care project coordinator in Bungoma County.
We are coming in to make sure that we strengthen the referral systems within the county to make sure we reduce the delays that results to maternal mortality. We're also working to make sure we reduce the teenage pregnancy cases by making sure the county invests in family planning commodities together with youth-friendly service provision.
They have called on the national and county governments to intervene and curb the rate of prenatal and maternal deaths in Bungoma.
We still have room to also ensure that more has to be put on the table to ensure that at least this 4th ANC attendance among pregnant women goes to above, say, 70-80%.
They have also stated that 23% of adolescent girls in Bungoma County are the victims of teenage pregnancy.
7 News Tonight takes a very short break. When we come back, that conversation about the state of Kenya's economy post-campaigns and post-COVID. You want to stick around for that because Victor Ogalo from the Kenya Private Sector Alliance will be joining me on the other side, and you want to stick around for that.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Hey! Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Chika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Haya chika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi muone daktari.
This fall, a new dawn rises in the Kenyan.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate of untold stories.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with TV47 News tonight. So the interview segment, and on March 17th, 2021, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance presented its economic manifesto on improving the ease of doing business to Deputy President then William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza Alliance. In the document that was presented by the CEO, Caroline Kariuki, now the lobby group identified 5 pillars, among them job creation, social transformation, governance and economic prosperity, cutting-edge innovation and global competitiveness. And 3 weeks after the new administration took over the reins of power, we want to look and to have, of course, a conversation on the state of the economy post the electioneering period under the bedrock, of course, of the post-COVID-19 pandemic period. And to me, to understand and to help us cut all the political noise and to make sense of this conversation, I'm joined by Victor Ogalo, who is the Deputy CEO of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Good evening, Victor, and thank you very much for your time this night.
Thank you so much, and good evening to you.
Asante sana, Kenyans wamekusalimia. Now, let us now just look at the manifesto you presented to then Deputy President, presidential candidate, and now President William Ruto.
Yes.
And of course, looked at the 5 pillars, which brought, of course, on what you would want to see in his administration. And I would like to start by asking you, Victor, do you think these 5 pillars are achievable?
Yes. The 5 pillars are achievable, and the reason we made them 5 so that we simplify the matter. We are a low middle income economy, and what Kenyans need actually on those 5 areas. We need socioeconomic transformation. We have Vision 2030 that is lapsing in another 7 to 8 years, which we started implementing in 2012. We have issues of governance that we all appreciate. We need to grow enough jobs. And I actually think we have sufficient capacity as a country to do that. If you look at government being the largest spender, with all the projects that you had in the Big Four, now in the new administration, they have so many projects that we envision will come in. Most of these jobs and the government tenders and contracts to deliver on these promises should actually be delivered by Kenyans. They should be delivered by the Juakalis we find in Kamukunji, by the Juakalis we find along Ngong Road, everywhere littered in the country. But we need to make that happen. Okay. These people do not need to be excluded from delivering value to the government. And that is why jobs for us, we are looking at jobs in a different way. No company is going to form here that is large to absorb the unemployed population. We must create these jobs within our small enterprises.
All right.
And to do that, there's an example, affordable housing, for instance, where we have seen the Juakali in the Kamkunji were actually enabled to be part of that supply chain of affordable housing, delivering things that can be manufactured here, doors, windows, hinges, and so on and so forth. I actually would encourage you to go and do a documentary with them and just find out how did they benefit from affordable housing. That's an example.
All right, Victor.
Yeah.
Looking at your 5-point agenda, and it looks like it's largely anchored on a proper working economy. And when I speak about economy here, I'm talking about macroeconomics. And how I understand, my understanding of how economic works, Victor, is we have a network of of production.
Yes.
And Kenyans who are able to afford what is being produced, so that in that we can spur the economy, and the economy can grow. And of course, this comes with jobs. And here, this means that we need to have a lot of production as a country. Now, my question to you would be, what are some of the immediate steps that can be taken so that we can spur economic growth? Now, this is, of course, devoid of the economy and the bottom-ups and everything that we had in the campaign trail. Let us now try to understand and make Kenyans understand really what it takes to have an economic turnaround.
Let's not complicate this. Turning this economy around is both simple and, again, can be made very difficult. But the simplest thing to do is, even in war, you really cannot maintain a war. Because in war, you have an objective, end goal. But if you keep your soldiers hungry, then even your opponent may buy them back to their side. So food security is going to be very, very key, that we have to work around feeding people affordably. We have a large population that is food insecure. The cost of doing business is high. The cost of food is high, and it's a spiral effect. But can we sort out food security? Yes, we can. When COVID happened and the global supply chain was sort of disrupted, and we had to rely on ourselves, I think we learned lessons that we could actually do certain things for ourselves. So I want us not to lose the lesson that we learned during COVID. Now, Ebola is just across us here in the western side, all right? And we are going to start having conversation on how do we stop Ebola from interfering with our affairs. We learned from COVID certain things, very basic things around feeding the economy, feeding the people. These are basic rights. And you can't function, even a child in school would not perform well when they are hungry. So food security is going to be one. The second one is actually going to be on what do the manufacturers need? What do the producers need? Is it energy? Is it water? What is it? Those very basic foundational things must work. We've had 9 years and so of infrastructure development. That has worked. What are we going to haul on those roads? Can we make it cheaper to manufacture sugar here? Can we make it cheaper to have your suit and mine produced here affordably? We have about 25% of import bills on food products, things that we could actually produce here and save, retain that value here locally. And I'm actually glad that the incoming administration is focused on that.
All right. Victor, you've said and you've given us examples of how we can have economic turnaround. But one thing we've mentioned is the high cost of living.
Yes.
Just coming out of a campaigning period, Kenyans were given promises. Some promises we were told will be done within 100 days. Now we have a new government in place. So the biggest question in the minds and hearts of very many Kenyans, Victor, tonight would be, when do you expect to see this change in the high cost of living? When will I go to the shop and buy a 2-kilogram packet of ugali unga at 70 shillings as we were promised in the campaigns? Is this achievable, or is this just politicians and their promises?
Actually, you don't have to buy a kilo of sugar at 70. That's not a benchmark price. Even if you were to buy it at 200, can you afford it? I think that's the question. Can we give more spending power in our own pockets? And can we earn more? Prosperity is not about earning less. If you want to prosper as a country, you must earn high. You must have higher disposable income. And it's in how you dispose of your income that an economy grows. So yes, if we say we are targeting 70 or 100 per kilo of sugar, let's just use that example, but even 50 bob per kilo could be expensive if the society is poor. In other countries, spending 300 on a kilo is okay because they have a higher disposable income. Can we build on the quality of jobs that we get, decent jobs that pay Kenyans high for the value that they provide? That's actually what we're trying to do at KEPSA, to ensure that and there are many ways to do that. If I reduce your cost of doing business, I'm actually giving you more spending power.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm actually, without necessarily even increasing your salary. If I make it affordable for you to use public transport, instead of driving your car and you fuel every day, I make that possible. If you are spending 500 per day on driving, and I make it possible for you to still travel to work on a public transport where you're paying 50 shillings instead of 500, I have actually given you more spending power.
All right, so the question would be then, when should we expect to see the easing of the cost of living?
I think let's not be overambitious. We are dealing with a lot of things and factors that are even beyond our control because some of them are external. Our inflation is driven by a number of other external factors. The Russia-Ukraine war, the closure of global supply chains, the dollar rates. These are probably things that we are fully not in control of. So let's, as Kenyans, please, let's not be over-ambitious. I think let's give this government time, and into my estimation, the way I've seen governments work over the last 25 years is we could actually expect to have some turnaround in another 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Victor, let us now look at the COVID and post-COVID era. March 2020, Kenya recorded its first case of COVID that came with a total economic shutdown at some point. Then President Uhuru Kenyatta saying that he had to balance between life and livelihood.
Yes.
We went through lockdowns. Very many people lost their jobs. The situation that went on until March 2022, where all the measures were fully lifted. How bad was the economic hit that was posed by COVID? And how long would it take to recover? In 1 minute, because I'm being told that we're running out of time.
Okay. Again, on this point, I want Kenyans to look at the brighter side of this. COVID hit us, just like you'd be hit by any other calamities. But the most important thing is, what do we learn from it? We learned from COVID that we could actually produce most of the stuff that we're importing. Lesson number one. Number two, 1 million jobs were lost. But the measures that we actually put in place, the proposals, the interventions that we recommended, that the president adopted, saved 5 million jobs. Sadly, we lost 1 million, but out of how we responded, the economic management response framework that KEPSA developed, that informed our 11th presidential roundtable, actually helped to save this country. So we saved 5 million jobs. But the most important is, what did we learn from it? There would be many crises, health crisis, economic crisis, but let's not lose the lessons that we learned from COVID and try to be self-sufficient.
And finally, the last one, before I let you go, there's this debate surrounding the NSSF, and the president has, of course, said that we should expect new measures, the NSSF Act, which might require Kenyans to contribute even more, and that might mean that even employers now should increase what they are contributing for their staff. As the private sector, will you support that? If you are asked to increase the amount of money you're saving for your staff from 200 shillings, or the general employment sector out there, Victor?
I agreed with the president on the matter of a saving culture. And I'm not just saying I agree, we do agree from the business community. You and I agree that you actually need to have some saving culture. But maybe NSSF may not be the only route to do the savings. Have we mapped out how Kenyans are saving? Must it be NSSF? No. 200 shillings, of course, is very little. You cannot depend on 200 shillings saving to secure your future post-retirement. But I think let us get into the debate of how do we inspire saving culture in the country. What are the instruments that are available to Kenyans wherever they're working, even if they're in the informal economy, even if they're in the formal jobs, NSSF was just a mandatory government-instituted instrument to help people understand that you actually need to adopt a saving culture. I've seen people in different circles, and they pay more than 200 shillings.
All right.
Yeah.
Victor Ogalo, Deputy CEO of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana. Of course, let us now continue with our broadcast tonight, but I'm being informed we have to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be coming to close down our bulletin. You want to stick around for that.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. One step into a home and all we think about is the furniture and colors. But do you ever stop to think about the type of materials used? Well, the floors, worktops, moldings, or the plumbing. Robert Ndungu takes you to different locations, different houses to get what works perfectly for your next home. Every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with TV47 News tonight. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has filed a suit in the High Court to recover 21.7 million shillings that were allegedly embezzled by a private company by the name Mulwa Farm Limited in collaboration with 9 officials of the State Department of Correctional Services. Now, despite the EACC demanding that they return the funds, the individuals failed to comply, thus prompting the filing of the instant suit. And as Paul Kirobi now tells us, the Commission has challenged the 9 officers plus the company and its sole proprietor.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has filed a suit in the High Court in Nairobi, seeking to recover 21,697,500 shillings embezzled by a private company by the name Mulwa Farm Limited in collaboration with 9 officials of the State Department of Correctional Services. The Commission also filed a case against the Mulwa Company and the sole proprietor. The investigation by the Commission established that in the financial year 2016-2017, 2017-2018, and 2018-2019, Mulwa Farm Limited, whose sole proprietor is Stephen Kisonzo Mulwa, received 21,697,000 97,500 shillings from the State Department of Correctional Services on account of goods not delivered. The 9 other officials are Ochoki Omayo Joseph, who at the time of the suit was a constable at Kenya Prison Service in the State Department of Correctional Services, attached to the Procurement Office; Sarah Kemunto Kerandi, who at the time of the suit was a Chief Finance Officer in the State Department of Correctional Services. The Commission EACC established that a fraudulent scheme was perpetrated jointly by all defendants involving making of false procurement documents, including requisition forms, local purchase orders LPO, delivery notes, inspection and acceptance certificates, and invoices which were used to support payment vouchers. Payment vouchers are supported by the falsified documents were then used by the public officer at the State Department of Correctional Services to effect payments amounting to 21,697,500 shillings to Mulo Farm Limited for goods not supplied. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption wants the Commission and its proprietor Stephen Kisonzo Mulwa to be charged on falsifying requisition forms, payment vouchers, delivery notes, local purchase invoices, and S13 forms, dishonesty of receiving 21,697,500 from the State Department, receiving public property, yet it was acquired in the course of a corrupt conduct, and failing to adhere to the provisions of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act 2015. The Commission also wants the 9 government officials to be charged with making or causing to be made payments from public revenue by raising invalid or falsified approval forms for goods not supplied, preparing false procurement documents, to wit requisition form and local purchase, orders failing to adhere to the provisions of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act 2015. On August 16, 2022, EACC issued demand notice to Mulo Farm Limited and the 9 public officials to remit the above amount. The defendants failed to pay back the amount as demanded by EACC, prompting the Commission to file a recovery suit in the High Court on 4th October 2022. EACC says that despite the stringent and multiple stages of authentication and approval of payments in government financial expenditure, cases of individual public officers embezzling huge amounts of public funds continue to thrive. The institution has now called upon all the accounting officers of public entities to take up their responsibilities in protecting the public funds entrusted under their care and control. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, the CRA, has put in place effective strategies to achieve the ambitions of various counties to collect more taxes to strengthen the economy and operations. At a meeting with various stakeholders, including the Council of Governors, represented by Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza, CRA says that if the counties improve the tax collection system, then they have the potential to collect more than 200 billion shillings annually, as Mike Kagwongo now tells us.
Speaking during the launch of the report on comprehensive on-resource revenue potential and tax gap study of county governments in Nairobi Wednesday, CRA chairperson Dr. Jane Kurengai said increasing counties' equitable share is going to be hard before the full recovery of the economy.
Over the 10 years, we have seen the kind of business activities that counties undertake. And using this 10-year data, we have now been able to bring it together, learn our own simulations, and what we're reporting or showing here today is that counties can collect 216 billion.
She opines that if counties collected the 216 billion, they do not have to take overdrafts to pay their bills.
So looking and generating their own revenues is going to help counties spend enough on development and also remain within the requirements of the PFM Act.
On-resource revenue has financed only about 9% of counties' yearly budgets in the last 10 years, but this could be more than 50%. Nairobi and Mombasa can finance their annual budgets if full on-source revenue potential is realized.
We also know that even in their best estimates, counties estimate to correct a maximum of 60 billion. So we believe this is very important in the next cycle of our devolution.
The Council of Governors has as well assured that it will follow through the implementation of the new report. According to the Council's Finance, Planning and Economic Affairs Chairman, Fernandez Baraza, Kakamega County can attain at least 50% OSR potential.
From the report, we have a potential of collecting over 200 billion Kenya shillings. And one thing that I want to commit on behalf of my 47 colleagues is that we are going to follow through the revenue sources, especially on areas of mining, issues around outdoor advertisement.
The recently elected county governors have commenced processes to establish the truth, accuracy and validity of pending bills amid reports that a majority of them are laden with huge debts. Baraza says a mechanism of settling the more than 150 billion pending bills is ready for implementation.
As governors, we now pay for the bills which are authentic. And one of the things, of course, the committee is doing as the TOR is to go up to and including verification of those projects in question, to confirm the level of completion so that we don't pay for projects which are incomplete.
County governments are yet to pay debts in excess of 153 billion shillings. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Let us now go to the world of business, where private and public companies have been urged to actively participate in the 20th edition of the Financial Reporting Awards by submitting their financial statements. At the same time, the pension firms have also been urged to embrace filing returns and transparency. Stanley Nyarigita reports.
Asanteni sana.
Micro, small and medium enterprises have been urged to submit their financial statements, a move that will help attract investors in the East African bloc. While launching the 20th edition of the Financial Reporting Awards in Nairobi, Chairman of the Financial Reporting Organization and CEO of National Securities Exchange, Geoffrey Odundo, stated that since its inception, more entries have been witnessed from both the private and public sectors.
How companies are able to insulate their businesses, especially around risk management and diversifying the businesses and being able to remain agile is so important. Now, as a participant in the FIRE Awards, these are the learnings that you get because in the assessment criteria, there are various categories that we assess.
Fundamentally, I think all these is then underpinned by the quality of audit opinion that an entity would have then received from the Office of the Auditor General. That is equally yet another matter that would then come in very strongly in our assessments of the financial statements provided.
The companies will also undergo a 3-level rigorous process to settle on the best in reporting financial and non-financial statements. The awarding ceremony, which will happen on the 16th of December 2022, will incorporate more small and medium enterprises so that they can also shape up to the global market. Stanley Nyarigita, TV 47, Nairobi.
That's when President William Ruto has pledged to work together with tea farmers in reducing the cost of production and enhance productivity, saying that they are among the greatest contributors of the economy through tea imports. He has further directed the Ministry of Trade to develop a Kenya tea brand, which in return will guarantee the farmers good earnings.
The president was speaking at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi when he flagged off Kenyan tea to Ghana under the African Continental Free Trade Area Initiative. During the event, President Ruto lauded tea farmers for their contribution to the economy, adding that his government will ensure measures to enhance the economy and reduce the cost of production in order to enhance productivity, which in return will ensure they all benefit from better prices.
Progressively, we are going to work with our farmers so that we can better support them in production. I have said we are going to make a conscious decision to support our production and not to subsidize our consumption. The government has made available about 3.5 billion shillings so that our farmers can have access to fertilizer at a fairly reduced price of 3,500.
He has also promised to work towards eliminating barriers that have to do with taxation in the sector and help capture markets for their produce.
Our next agenda, when we will be discussing our budget, is to eliminate any barriers in the tea sector that come as a result of matters taxation.
The president also reiterated on the need to develop a Kenyan tea brand to help market the product, adding that the government is focused to increase tea exports in the next 5 years.
For a very long time, Kenya has produced tea that has helped everybody brand their low-quality tea. I think it is time we help ourselves, brand it, and anybody else who wants to use our good quality tea must come and work with us.
The Kenya Tea Development Agency, led by its chairperson David Ishoho, also got a chance to present their supplications to the president, urging him to help eliminate barriers to reaping big in the sector. Paul Munio, TV 47.
In other news making headlines on the business front, in Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nairobi County, in partnership with electric vehicles and renewable energy stakeholders, have agreed on key strategies that they would submit to the government in a bid to recommend various policies that can be adopted in the next 100 days and beyond. More specifically, they implored the government to focus on improving the ease of doing business for investors in the electronic vehicle and renewable energy space, as this would play a critical role in the creation of employment opportunities in Kenya. In March 2022, the Chamber and the Nairobi chapter was invited for public participation and submission of budget ideas and suggestions to the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Planning for consideration in the financial year 2022-2023 budget statement. The Nairobi Chamber proceeded to submit a memorandum to the government highlighting the various fiscal and non-fiscal measures aimed at promoting the adoption of e-mobility in Kenya.
To see how we can have the first adoption of electric vehicles in Kenya. We're looking at 2-, 3- and 4-wheeler vehicles and see how we can have mass adoption, and has made the vehicles unaffordable. So we're looking at border riders tapping into electric vehicles, and by using electric vehicles, they'll be able to bring down their costs of operations, and at the same time, we create more jobs into that sector and see how we can be efficient in terms of transportation at the level of two-wheelers. Another area of opportunities is in regards to the mass transport system, whereby we can actually also incorporate electric vehicles and in this regard, four-wheelers, which are actually buses. We have a BRT system that the government is building, and we've seen that there's an opportunity for us to tap into the electric buses and see how we can improve the mass transport system.
For industry stakeholders, including the entrepreneurs themselves, including banks, supporting institutions, to come together and to have a greater understanding of why e-mobility is the best path forward for Kenya.
Exciting time to speak about e-mobility. E-mobility is the future. We have seen initiatives, first of all, looking at what the president said at the UNGA address with respect to the need for countries in Africa to be really focused on climate change. And we believe that with e-mobility, the opportunity for Africa to entirely change the course of history is a great opportunity.
To the world of sports now, and Commonwealth super lightweight champion Sarah Achieng will defend her title against Puerto Rico's Melissa Hernandez on 21st of this month at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, Nairobi. Speaking during the contract signing, Achieng stated that she is confident and hopes to register her dream results in the 10-round match the trip to USA for the Women International Federation boxing title fight in June. Meanwhile, veteran Kenyan boxer Nico Koth has announced his retirement from the boxing arena after a successful 15-year career. He's aged 39. Now, the Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, General Robert Kiboshi, has promoted Corporal Jocelyn Jebkosgei to Sergeant at the Defence Headquarters in Nairobi following a silver medal win at the 2022 London Marathon. Jebkosgei's major breakthrough took place in 2019 when she won both the half marathon and marathon in New York City in a time of 1 hour 10:07 and 2 hours 22 seconds 38 respectively. 2 years later, she followed the win with another gold medal at the 2021 London Marathon, improving on her earlier time in New York with 5 minutes less, registering time of 2 hours 17 minutes and 43 seconds, and she scooped the silver medal with a time of 2 hours 18 minutes and 7 seconds in the last